Spoiler warning. Click off this video now if you haven't played through all of Persona 5 and Persona 3. You have been warned. Persona, one of the greatest game franchises to exist. Each game has its own unique taste and flavor. Every game in the franchise has something that people like. The social links, the stories, the characters. There's something for everyone in these games. And as such, I decided that would be fitting for my first video on this channel to be about the Persona franchise. Hello everybody, and welcome to my very first discussion video on this channel. This is the second of two channels I have, the first one being a gaming channel. On this channel I'll be discussing a multitude of topics like games, movies, books, and other stuff. Also, you may have noticed that I am portraying myself as Miles Edgeworth, and you might ask yourself, why? Well, it's because I just think having a character guide you is cool, and I think it's very in character for him, so... Anyways, that's enough of me yapping. Let's get into the actual video, comparing Persona 3 Reload and Persona 5 Royal. Not the base Persona 3 and Persona 5. First, I'd like to start with my general thoughts on both games. I started playing the Persona games back in November of last year, right when the Steam Black Friday sale was on. Yeah, I'm what you would call new to the franchise. I saw a video about Persona 5 Royal, and I was like, this game looks cool, let me give it a try. And man, did this 100-hour game not disappoint. When the game was over, I was itching for more. This was some of the peakest fiction I have ever played. The characters and gameplay were amazing, the story was good, though it had some issues in places, and I also really enjoyed the mixture of anime cutscenes, and dialogue with portraits, which was the first time I've seen something like this. I have pretty much nothing but good praise for this game. After I finished Persona 5 Royal, I decided to play Persona 3 Reload, and I have to be frank here, I was kind of disappointed the first time I played. The game didn't have me hooked from the start like Persona 5's epic casino heist. And honestly, if I hadn't played Persona 5 Royal first, and started with this game instead, I might have dropped it. However, I decided to instead push through the start of the game in hopes that the game would get better. And man, am I glad I didn't drop the game. The start of the game was pretty slow and boring, but once I hit the middle of the game, I started really enjoying it. Tartarus was sadly the worst part of the game, and it didn't really get better as the game went on. The floors were really linear, and it was very grindy to level up characters, especially since your members that weren't in your party earned 0 XP, unlike Persona 5 Royal. The only thing really carrying it was the fights, since Persona turn-based battles are always fun, but sadly those also got pretty boring after spending a while inside Tartarus. Thankfully, the game makes up for this in the story. The story of this game is 10 times better than Persona 5 Royal. I just really enjoyed the dark tone of the game, how it explores death and acceptance of it. And the ending of the game was phenomenal. Fighting the literal end of the world and winning was epic. I definitely enjoyed this final battle more than Persona 5's final battles. Sadly, I got spoiled that Makoto dies at the end of the game, but man, was I still so sad when it happened. I literally cried when you got to talk to all of the social links you completed, and all of them asking if you're okay and explaining how thanks to you their life got better. And then when you meet your friends on the rooftop and frickin' die, and then the credits roll, how the frick am I supposed to not cry, huh? Anyways, that's it for my general thoughts on both games. Let's get to the comparison. I'll be comparing the games in a total of 5 categories: the story, the main cast, the social links, the soundtrack, and the gameplay of the main dungeons, as people call them. I'll be rating each of these from a scale of 1 to 10 and then averaging out the scores at the end. Anyways, let us get into the first, and probably most important category, the story of both games. Both games have good stories, but one game is clearly the winner in this department. Persona 5 Royal. Nah, just kidding, Persona 3 Reload wins by a landslide. Persona 5 Royal story is by no means bad. The third semester really makes you think. If you had the opportunity to be happy, and your loved ones be happy forever, at the cost of knowing this is not real, or what truly happened, some people would take it. However, personally, even if I'm not always happy, I think making my own decisions and living in a world that isn't lies is more important to me. Some people say Yoshizawa was really forced into the story, and yeah, in some parts she was, but honestly, I really like her, so I didn't really mind. It's also better for me because I didn't play the original, so I didn't really feel forced by her that much, but I can see why the people who played the original felt this way. Also, for like half the game, I believe Yoshizawa was a main villain because the black mask individual kept coming up, and I was like, wait, didn't Yoshizawa have a black mask in the game's intro in the casino? But once I played her social link more and met Akechi, I knew she wasn't the black masked villain. Anyway, speaking of Akechi, he's probably one of the most obvious twist villains I've seen. You can smell that something was fishy in that pancake cutscene, and then when you go to Okumura's palace and he sees you go in, and you see the black mask individual silhouette, and it was so obvious it was him. I also feel like Okumura's palace was really forced. It was just like, oh, the fan side wants us to steal Okumura's heart. Okay, let's do it. Like, no hesitation, bro. And then they are surprised it was a trap. Like, come on. However, other than these problems, I really enjoy the story of the Phantom Thieves. Stealing people's hearts to make them good can be perceived as either good or bad and can make for good debates. Also, I think each palace serves a purpose in the story pretty well, and Memento's merging with the real world due to public desire for control and the lack of public belief about the Phantom Thieves was great. The final boss was so epic. However, Persona 3's story is way better. The way it explored the impacts of death and how you need to accept it and live your life to the fullest is amazing. The part about the Kirijo group forcing people to awaken to their personas and seeing how Takaya and the others have to live with their personas trying to kill them is great. Takaya and the others not fearing death because their personas always tries to kill them is honestly sad. The romantical feelings between Junpei and Chidori are also really well written, and I cried when she died. The fair social link actually leading into the arrival of Ryoji was really well made. And the whole debate of whether to kill Ryoji and have the fall happen later, but the cast is blissfully unaware it happens, or to fight back and try to stop the inevitable was great. Though I would never kill Ryoji just for me to be unaware the fall happens. And oh boy, was the final battle epic. Makoto sacrificing themselves to stop the fall was sad, but necessary. And then on March 3rd, when he talks to all his social links he completed, them telling him how much he helped them, and then meets his teammates on the roof and frickin' dies in the credits roll. How can someone not cry? Now then, I do have to get into my complaints. I know, boo. Firstly, the pacing of the story is pretty bad, especially at the start. Nothing that interesting happens at the start like in Persona 5 Royal, where you go on the whole casino heist, and then when you start from the beginning of the story and stumble into Kamoshida's palace, it definitely picks up the pace in the middle, especially at the end, but at the start game, it could have been better. Another complaint I have is about October 4th. The scene where Shinjiro dies is very sad. Well, I almost cried when it happened, but I have some major problems with Ken here. Sure, Shinjiro might have accidentally killed his mom, but Ken doesn't even hear him out. He just automatically like, oh, I'm gonna kill you. Also, if you know this guy is a murderer and killed your mom, why are you trying to kill him by yourself? Why couldn't you have like asked anyone else on the team like Makoto or something to help you sort this out? If Shinjiro actually wanted to kill Ken, he could 100% do it because Ken is a freaking 10-year-old. Anyways, another complaint I have is the chairman's villain arc moment, whatever you call it. Honestly, I saw no build up to it. It just felt out of the blue, bro. Like the cast was like, the chairman and I guess are taking a while today, huh? And then boom, he's evil. And dude, I wasn't even intimidated by him, lol. He felt so cartoonish with his evil smile and his talk that he's like the prince or whatever he called himself. And then when he fell off the roof, bro, like, come on, how can you not tell me he is not a cartoon villain? And I'm sorry, but I didn't cry when Mitsuru's dad died. It was sad, and I hated seeing Mitsuru mourn over her dad, but we didn't really know him, so I didn't really feel as emotional as Shinjiro's or Makoto's deaths. Dang, that was a long section. I'm going to give Persona 3 Royal an 8 out of 10 for this story, while I'm going to give Persona 5 Royal a 6 out of 10 in the story department. The main cast of each Persona game plays a big part of both the story and your experience with the game. If a game has a bad cast, the game is going to be pretty bad. I think the general consensus is that Persona 5's cast is much better, and I agree. Persona 3's cast is by no means bad, but I did have a couple of characters I dislike. However, in Persona 5, I loved every main cast character. Even Morgana I enjoyed sometimes, even though they are definitely the worst out of the bunch. I love Ann, she's great. I love her arc with Shiho and Kamoshida. She's a very enjoyable character. Ryuji is definitely my favorite out of main cast. I just love how clueless he is sometimes and enjoy his reckless behavior. And man, is he also a bro. I 200% like him better than Junpei. Makoto is also great. I love how smart she is and how badass she is in her metaverse form. And I really enjoyed her social link as well. I also love Yusuke and his broke and also his bit with Anno was pretty funny. I also enjoy Haru. I love her nice but actually can be scary attitude. I've already talked about Akechi and Yoshizawa, so I'll be skipping them. And then finally, Joker. Joker is peak character right here. I love his design and how arrogant he is in his metaverse form. Sorry, Makoto and Persona 3 fans, but I gotta say, I like Joker better than them. Sorry. Now then, the Persona 3 cast is a weird bunch. On one side, we have peak characters like Yukari, Akihiko, Mitsuru, and Koromaru. Then we have mid characters like Junpei and Shinjuro. And then we have characters like Ken, who just make me want to jump into a hole. Yeah, the cast is pretty much a hit or miss in this game, unlike in Persona 5, which pretty much everyone I like there. I love how Yukari makes fun of Junpei, even though it kinda gets old later, but I mostly love how she truly cares about her friends and will do anything for them. And how can you not love our gym bro Akihiko, or Mitsuru, who is a strong leader, smart, and a good decision maker? And come on, who doesn't love Koromaru? They're a freaking dog. How can you not love them? Also, side note, who gave the dog a persona? Like, does actually think I was gonna bring a dog to the fight of the end of the world? Nah, I'm keeping that doggo alive. But Junpei and Shinjuro aren't really great characters for me. I can see why people would like them, but I don't know. I just feel like Junpei doesn't have much character other than girls and him wanting to be a hero. And Shinjuro is pretty cool, but I don't know. I didn't really enjoy him that much. If you know you're going to die soon, then why not make the most of it? Hang out with your friends instead of sitting in an alleyway, bro. And don't get me started on Ken. I just don't like him at all. I hate how he just decided to resort to murder as a form of revenge on Shinjiro, and I hate how he acts as if he wasn't about to kill him. I know people in the comments are gonna be like, but he grew as a character. He wants to protect his friends now instead of trying to get revenge. Shut up. He just decided this because he saw how bad death is. In my eyes, this doesn't make him a good person. Sorry. Hey guys, post-production Doggyplays here. Oopsies, I skipped over Agas's and Futaba's lines. Sorry, don't bomb my house, please. No. Anyways, Futaba is cool. I mean, I'm not that big of a fan of her, but I think she's alright. And her calling Mishima an NPC was really funny. And I guess his peak character, nothing else. As such, I'm giving Persona 5 Royal a 9.5 out of 10 on the cast. We're gonna drag this down from a 10 out of 10. And for Persona 3, I'm gonna have to give the game a 6 out of 10. I'm sorry, the cast isn't as great as Persona 5's. The social links. Probably one of the best parts of any Persona game. Ranking up social links is probably like 80% of what you'll be doing each day in a Persona game. Each social link in both games has a unique story tied to the character of that link. Some social links are peak like Akinari and EY, or mid like Kenji or Sai. This video would be too long if I talked about each and every social link in both games, so this is just going to be my general opinion on them. And in my opinion, I think I enjoyed the Royal links more. I feel like the Persona 3 social links are either hit or miss. Like, it's either peak or absolute garbage. However, almost all of the Persona 5 social links are solid. I did dislike a couple like Sai's or Oya's, but other than 3 or 4 that were mid, the rest were solid or peak. However, in Persona 3 Reload, I feel like 1/4 was mid, 2/4 were okay, and 1/4 was peak. Only a couple of the links really stood out to me. And for the other links in the game, I'd rather play a Persona 5 Royal social link instead. And can we also talk about how none of the male protagonists got a social link in Persona 3 Reload? Sure, they gave them linked episodes, but for me those do not feel like social links. I know they are available in the FMC's route of Persona 3 Portable, but I want to talk about Persona 3 Reload here. I was quite disappointed when playing this game right after Royal, because I was expecting the male protagonists to have full fleshed out stories, and in my opinion, I don't think the linked episodes gave them justice. As such, I have to give Persona 3 Reload a 5 out of 10 on links, and Persona 5 Royal a 9 out of 10. Now, onto the soundtrack. This is probably going to be one of the more controversial categories because everyone has different music tastes. As such, I'd say take this with a grain of salt. I might like one game's soundtrack better, but you can like the others better, and that's completely fine. I just wanted to share my thoughts on the music, so let's get into it. Now then, let's get this out of the way. Both games' soundtracks are amazing. I listened to songs from both games and absolutely enjoyed them. However, I'm going to have to give Persona 3 Reload the win here. I just enjoy the hip-hop, rap, and rock vibe of the music more. Don't get me wrong, I love the more jazz-style Persona 5 Royal, but there are a lot less songs I enjoy from it than 3. Some songs just don't really click with me. And this is a hot take. I feel like Whims of Fate is way too overrated. I didn't really like it that much, but overall the Persona 5 Royal soundtrack is very solid. I just enjoyed 3's a bit better. As such, Persona 3 Real gets a 10 out of 10, and Persona 5 Royal gets a 9 out of 10. And finally, our last category, the gameplay mechanics of the dungeons of each game. To the surprise of no one, Persona 5 Royal wins this category with no competition at all. There is no world where you compare palaces to Tartarus. Tartarus is a hellhole. The design is way too linear, the grinding is abysmal, and most enemies aren't unique after the first couple floors because they just reuse them and change up their abilities a bit. I had to take a couple breaks from the game because of how much Tartarus sucked. Sometimes I was even dreading playing the game because I knew I had to go through Tartarus that day. You get the picture. Tartarus sucks. One thing I did like is the shuffle time mechanic. It added some strategy by having to choose between personas, XP money, etc. I also really like the Arcana cards and the extra boosts or abilities they gave. However, the Persona 5 palaces are definitely more peak. I love exploring the unique areas in each new palace, and I love how everything in the palaces connect to the target's views. I also really enjoyed most of the puzzles. The only one I didn't enjoy that much is the final palace's puzzles. They were kind of weird and really repetitive. I also really loved the mechanic of being able to talk to shadows. Being able to choose between all-out attacking, having become one of your personas, or giving you an item was great. It added some variety to the battles and also added some strategy. The boss fights are also 10 times better than Persona 3 Reload's Full Moon Shadows. They are much more interesting, and it's always fun to battle the metaverse version of your target at the end of the palace. The only complaint is Okumura's boss fight. And alright, I get that everyone complains about this boss fight. However, if I don't talk about it, then this video won't be the same. Okumura's boss fight is annoying, but honestly once I leveled up my party a bit and learned the weaknesses of the robots, the boss fight went way better. Of course, I still think the difficulty jump was kinda crazy, and that maybe the robot's health should be nerfed a bit, cause oh my goodness was I stuck on this part for ages. But overall I think a boss fight was a good test of your skill. That said, I give Persona 3 Reload a 3 out of 10. I'm gonna give Persona 5 Royal a 9.5 out of 10 on the gameplay. And now, time to reveal final scores. And yeah, Persona 5 Royal wins with a 8.6 out of 10. I definitely enjoyed 5 more than 3. However, I would give 3 more of a 7 out of 10 than a 6 out of 10, but oh well. And remember, if you're angry with this video, just know that all of these were my opinions, and you are free to disagree in the comments. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. In the next discussion video, I'll be ranking all of the Forsaken, Killers, and Survivors. See you guys in the next video.